Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. So, this movie obviously had a very tough development with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. I believe they had completely finished the script for Wakanda Forever, and then his passing occurred, so they had to rewrite everything, obviously. And I think they handled it very respectfully, and it's very smart how they did it in universe. The characters in the film are mourning the loss of King T'Challa and trying to figure out what they're going to do going forward to protect Wakanda now that the Black Panther's no longer around to keep them safe. And I just think overall that was the right way of handling the situation in the universe there. So it worked very well for the film, but overall, I just didn't like this movie as much as the first one, and that's not only because of, the loss of Chadwick Boseman. Of course, no one's ever going to be able to play that role as well as he did, so that you can't hold that against the film. Outside of that, there's just a lot in this movie that doesn't work super well, even though there are, objectively better components to it. Like, the CGI is significantly improved. They did a much better job with the CGI in this film compared to the first one. The second half of Black Panther with that, very cinematic finale fight had really wonky CGI. Here they cleaned most of that up to the point where even the underwater shit looked pretty beautiful. And I also think they did a better job with the action sequences in this one. They're a lot more hype and they go a lot harder. This shit'll reach out and slap you in your seat. They did much better with the action here. But even with these upgrades, I just don't feel like it excelled at everything that it wanted to achieve. The movie's at its best when the characters, you can feel the emotion behind them. There's very good writing for a lot of these characters, and the acting is outstanding. So when they're delivering these really emotionally charged monologues and these emotionally charged moments, it hits, and they've done a great job with that. But they also weave in, very generic Marvel formula stuff. I just feel like overall there's a lot of things they put in here that just didn't land super well when it comes to the Marvel experience, because it's just things that we've already seen so many times before. I feel like what must have happened is when they were rewriting the script, they maybe started to scramble a bit and just decided to play it very safe and just fall back on the tried and true Marvel formula. And by golly, I swear with my hand on a stack of Bibles, as God is my witness, I'll hit you with the truth. I am so tired of that Marvel formula. I roll my eyes more at the Marvel formula than I did at Pythagorean theorem back in algebra class when I was in school. I am just exhausted from it. It just feels so worn out to me at this point. It used to be comfort food, just spoonfuls of ice cream in the form of Marvel movies and TV shows. But at this point, now it's just this gluttonous monster just constantly shoving the ice cream down your throat. And by the time you reach the bottom of the tub, you just feel like you get nothing out of it. At least that's how I feel. Luckily, the whole film doesn't just follow the standard story beats of Marvel films. It has incredible moments, and it's more of a slow burn of a movie where it's a lot of conversations, it's a lot of dialogue, but the dialogue is written so well that it's really the best parts. There's great action, of course, which is always fun to watch, but like I said in the beginning, the emotional moments are the parts that I found to be the most interesting and really the highlights of the film. But they really start in the second half of the film to just go down that more standard route. It transitions into a very standard, very safe, by the numbers, generic superhero film. A very standard villain who wants to, destroy the world. They're the most powerful thing ever. The world's gotta go because they're not happy. They had a rough experience once as a kid. Now the fucking world's destroyed. Now it's gotta go. And it's up to our core team here to stop it. And it's very quippy, full of jokes. It's just so done a million times before. The first film had an amazing villain with Killmonger, so it's hard not to remember that when the villain in this film is so weak. Namor isn't a weak character in and of itself, but I just don't think they did a great job with the character. And I also felt like they really fell flat on showcasing the strength of the civilization he comes from. In the movie, Namor leads a civilization that's supposed to be as technologically advanced and as powerful as Wakanda. And they never really get that across. The characters in that civilization, They ride around on animals like whales and shit, which is cool, but they're not like cyber whales shooting laser beams with turrets on it or anything. They don't have any like aircrafts or anything. They're underwater and they don't have any high tech. They're throwing spears, like normal spears, not even like cyber spears. They're vibranium spears, which is cool, I guess, but they're not. I never got the impression that they were that threatening. I felt like Wakanda could at any point crush them if they wanted to. They just never felt like a real threat. Like the most high-tech thing we ever saw from Namor and his civilization is basically a big water balloon. They have these little water grenades where they throw them and they blow up into like this bomb of water. And that's really the most high-tech weaponry they showed. But they kept hammering it home that this civilization is unbeatable. They could wipe out Wakanda. They're so scary and strong. But they just did a terrible job of showing that. And I also just kind of felt like Namor was kind of lame. Like, that's a little harsh. I mean, he's not like, Weenie Hut Jr., like, the turbo nerd, not cool to watch or anything. But he doesn't have, like, a really interesting backstory, nor is he himself, like, an interesting villain either. They try and make him, like, sympathetic, but it doesn't land super well. And watching him fight and shit is pretty underwhelming, even though he's supposed to be extremely strong. And they do get that across, like, he is strong, but at no point did I ever think, damn, this guy's strong, he'll fuck you in the face, this is a real tough opponent here. And maybe I'm just not a huge fan of the character design. I thought the little wings on the ankles were kind of goofy, like the little Hermes shoes. Namor has these tiny little chicken wings on his feet that allow him to fly when he's in the surface area. And he can fly fast as shit, but I just don't think it looks very cool. Like, it just looks a little silly. Like, it just looks like these tiny little wings that you'd see on a small flightless bird. Like, I think the character could have been cool. They could have done something great with the character, and I think the actor did a great job with the character. But it just didn't really land. I just felt like it was more of a miss than anything. Now, maybe they'll build the character up in the future, perhaps. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But as it is in this film, I just felt really underwhelmed by the villain. And, it's like I want to make it clear, I don't think this movie was bad by any means. I did enjoy it overall, but I think it was just way too long as well. This is a 2 hour and 41-minute movie that's just way too fucking long. They could have absolutely cut out quite a bit of that. I like slow burn, long films, but this movie had no reason to be that long. There's like entire side quests in here that don't even matter. Without getting into spoilers, they follow around some familiar faces in America, and they're doing some things and talking about what's happening in Wakanda. But everything they're doing just feels so meaningless and doesn't have like a real impact on the story or anything really. So it just feels like, why are we spending any time with them, let alone like 20 to 30 minutes? We could have absolutely just maybe cut that out of the film, and I think that would have helped just bring the runtime down a little bit, because it is just kind of a lot, with some moments like that not really contributing much. But overall, like, I did like the film. I also really liked the soundtrack, which I already expected I would. The soundtrack in the first one also fucking slapped, and I knew this one would be just as good, and it is. So overall, I did enjoy it. It just has some things that I didn't like as much. So plugging Black Panther Wakanda Forever into the moist meter, I'm going to give it a nice clean 70%. I think they've done a lot of good things with this film. There was a lot of things that did work, but there were a lot of things that didn't as well. But yeah, overall, it was good. That's about it. See ya.